Hello again. This is to briefly show that Heng and Shan, the two guys who claim to be Shaolin masters, are not. I will summarize what I found out and make it clearer to you. Recently I have exposed this master. I called him the Photoshop master with the help of some others. Shakyamuni, there is an ID card even given of him who photoshopped him into pictures of the Shaolin temple. Now look who we find here. This is a side of Baba Fitness. It's the same guy here. He has hair, again in the Shaolin temple. Here he is called Jiang. And Baba Fitness obviously was told by Shan that this was a 32nd Shaolin disciple. Please be careful, read carefully. A disciple is not a master, and he is not allowed to put someone in the Shaolin lineage. That can only happen by the so-called warrior monks, but even they do usually not ordain. This is done by the abbot of the temple or by fully ordained monks. Only fully ordained monks can put warrior monks in the lineage of the temple. So this guy was not even a master. Look here, isn't it strange? But still Shan believes he became a 33rd generation Shaolin disciple through him. It is a fraudulent guy who uses Photoshop. Now we scroll up this Baba Fitness site. Look also carefully at this photo where he claims to be also the student of Chen Minlun. Be very careful with those photos. You can look for signs like a shadow on this shirt, a shadow that you don't see here anywhere on his body, on his arms, and make up your mind about this guy. What relation did he really have? Unfortunately, he has passed away. So Shan is not a Shaolin. He claims to be taught by someone who was not a real Shaolin himself. Now to Heng, he makes it much easier for us now, because in this clip a new time begins, introducing the official Shaolin Kung Fu Duan Pin system. He shows his own new certificate that was handed out to the participants in Austria by legitimate Shaolin monks. This shows, look carefully, that he's made his first Duan, that is the very first disciple grade. The equivalent would be in a common Dan system or belt system, that you go from a white to a yellow belt, for example. This is the very first grade, so now he has officially put himself back in the rank of a disciple. How he is still claiming to be a master, we will try to find out, but he is not a Shaolin master. He is just a beginner, as he proudly shows. A very strange event, I have to say. But he has done it himself, and we have recorded it in case they delete the video or try to tell you another story. So your master is a disciple. He is not a Shaolin master. Now look, he has already said that he is not a monk after some criticism, and after the Mulligan brothers also tried to portray him as a monk. But you still see him wearing a huge mala, a Buddhist necklace. He has a shaven head, which he didn't have when he claimed with a photo to have been put in the Shaolin lineage by a Shaolin master, Shakyamuni. I come back to this. Now his head is shaven. At that time, strangely enough, it was not shaven. He also puts himself in a typical Shaolin outfit like the Chinese monks do. So he's pretending, and he still wants you to believe he's something like a monk, obviously. Also, he says otherwise. Now you know what he really is. As a side note, he has also made a video, Shaolin is Shan, Shaolin is not Chuan. This is a quote by this former Shaolin master who for a long time suffered from Parkinson's disease, and when he died, he said, he's supposed to have said, Shaolin is Chan, not Chuan, and he simply meant that Shaolin is Chan, meditation, Buddhism, and not fighting. Chan, meditation, comes first, not fighting. Now let's listen what this guy, Heng, makes out of this quote. He quotes it, but then he turns it around and misinterprets it, which also should show you that he doesn't understand the Shaolin tradition.
In the field of like martial arts, and that's why this here and this combination, Shan and Chuan, this is the nice part that nowadays, even in 2023, is still the valuable fact about why to practice all this type of stuff.
Yeah. Mumbo jumbo, what is the English word for that? He doesn't get it. So why does he claim to be a master at all? He has a black belt by Frankie Do. Of course, he calls Frankie Do, who is deceased, by his Chinese name. So this further mixes you up. All those Chinese names, you're not used to them. But Frankie Do was simply a military guy who trained not only him, but I heard also the abbot of the Shaolin Temple Europe once. I will come back to this abbot in a separate clip, because the accusations here are more serious. But Frankie Do is a strange figure, because he claims to be, or someone claims that he's a third grade grandmaster in praying mantis. Now, you could ask yourself, where's the praying mantis in what you see from Heng? And someone explained to me, someone who knows him, that that Frankie Do guy actually taught a couple of things, and you could be a black belt without being specialized in praying mantis. You would specialize at a later stage in animal styles. But you have to know the basics first. Whatever in China, as you may find out, ask people who do research there, a graduation system in praying mantis is not very common. Anyway, I asked myself, where did this Frankie guy, Do or Dao, I don't know how you spell his last name, got his credentials? And it was said by Emmanuel Acrella. You can find a 40-minute long talk by him. He's talking like actors do in the Godfather movies, like Italian mafioso. That is his accent. It's quite funny to listen to him. But something fishy about him, if you look at him with my eyes, and this side was given to me from another student of Frankie Do, to show his reputation. Actually, in under the video, you find comments that are a couple of years old of disciples of that Manuel Acrella, who was the teacher of Frankie Do, who really liked him. But the last comment is 1 year old and is by one of his daughters, and she simply says, he was not a good guy. he, Manuel Acrella, the teacher of Frankie Do, who was the teacher of Shi Hengyi, was not a good guy. Whatever that means, I hope it doesn't mean what I think. Now, if you listen to him, you can imagine that there is something wrong with him, but the links to his schools don't work anymore. So if you have more information about him, please tell me. Anyway, now in this article it is claimed that the founder, maybe a legendary founder of Praying Mantis called Wong Long, gave the style to his disciple Fun Tong. And he too Lo Kuan Yu. And Lo then taught several students, and one of those was Cheng Peng Wang. And this Cheng Peng Wang immigrated to the States in 1962 and taught Manuel Acrella. Now this is also fake, because there is only 4 generations, and Wong Long lived in the Ming Dynasty, which ended in 1644. You cannot bridge 300 years by just 4 generations. It's impossible. So the whole story about Manuel Acrella is bullshit. I don't see where his schools exist. I saw a strange 40-minute talk that was commented by one of his daughters, obviously, with this short sentence: he was not a good guy. Now I can tell you something about how Buddhism understands karma. Not like most people think, if you do something bad will happen to you. That is oversimplified, and it often doesn't work like this. Unfortunately, we see a lot of injustice in the world because it doesn't work like this. But karma describes habitual behavior in which you get entangled. So if there were habitual lies by Manuel Acrella already about where he got the style from, and it was not authentic, this was given to Frankie Do. Maybe he believed it. He was naive, and he transmitted something to other people like the abbot of Shaolin Temple Europe and Shi Hengyi. Okay. So this is a problem because the lineage from the beginning might have been fraudulent. From what I see, I don't have a good feeling with it. Now the other thing is, I haven't opened that page, but you may all know that the actual abbot of the Shaolin Temple in Henan was involved in sex scandals and also money embezzlement. He was cleared, but you have to understand that he is working in the interest of the Communist Party in China. We haven't seen much kung fu from him, actually nothing, no? But people claim that in his youth he could do something. He doesn't look very well trained, but anyway, even if we don't believe the scandals, there's obviously some wealth accumulated. There was a discussion of a lot of cars that somehow belong to the temple, for example. And for those of you who don't know this, the abbot of the Shaolin Temple has to take all the vows of a Buddhist monk. Traditionally, that means he can be excluded from the Sangha if he commits the 4 major offenses that are called parachika. One of the offenses is to accumulate wealth. I simplify it a bit, but it is to overcharge someone, to bullshit someone financially, and to accumulate wealth. That is a simple explanation of this offense. So you have to make up your mind about this abbot too. I don't want to blame the whole monkhood, of course. I don't think that they can do a lot about this. They will always have an abbot that is welcomed by the Communist Party. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. what I mean is, and why I'm telling you this, that also from the original lineage in Shaolin, since they opened the temple, there is a problem and there is this karma involved. And I've told you a couple of signs for this. So what about the Xianhai guy? There is a black belt from a dubious lineage, but it's not Shaolin. Frankie Do, he taught, for example, Shaolin Kempo. Unfortunately, I don't have my book about Shaolin Kempo here. It's in Germany. But you will find that this is not what the Shaolin teach in the temple. It's just called Shaolin, but it's not taught by the monks in the temple. The guy who gave him the Shi Heng Yi name, but didn't shave his hair, obviously, Shi Yanhai was not an abbot of a Shaolin temple. If you are not an abbot of a temple, if you're not fully ordained, you don't have all the rights to ordain or include someone in the lineage of the Shaolin. So I would go so far as to doubt if Jiang, the name which is probably in his passport, is even allowed to call himself Shi Heng Yi, or should call himself Shi Heng Yi, because I think that in 2004, as they say on the Shaolin Temple Europe website, when he and I think the abbot got his name a year before him, when they got their name by Shi Yanhai, he was not in the Berlin temple, the official Shaolin temple anymore. So this monk was not able formally to correctly ordain them in the Shaolin lineage, and again as disciples, not as masters. Those names, Shi Heng something, are carried by hundreds and hundreds of people. No? They just mean that you are studying in the Shaolin tradition. They don't mean that you have mastership. So please rethink all what you have thought. And I have not deleted many comments, but I wanted to show to others that the followership of Shi Heng Yi has often some moral flaws. In the past, many years ago, I have exposed some other monk who was not doing Kung Fu but pretended to be a Shan master. He had to disrobe. In the end, I was not the only one criticizing him, but when the other ordained Buddhists got knowledge of it, they put pressure on him and he had to disrobe because he committed a sexual offense, a parachika, also one of the 4 major offenses. I will talk about them in a separate clip more, but you know, it is important that if someone does something in the name of Shan, that he shows a certain behavior, and if you follow him, you should show that. And I have to say that the community of this, unfortunately, he was also of Vietnamese origin. This other monk, or so-called monk, had at least disciples who did mostly behave. Some of you do not behave very well in the comments, and they are full of hate speech. And I have not deleted some of the comments so that everybody can see that who is the followership of Shi Heng Yi, who belongs to this followership. I don't mean all of you, of course, but there are quite some bad examples, and this shows that you do not study Buddhism or the ethics of Buddhism well enough. Under this clip, I will delete all hate speech, so you don't have to waste your time. If you want to give some constructive criticism, some input, it is welcome. But you should focus on the topic. The topic is, well, at the beginning it was Shan, but mainly it is Heng and fraudulent claims of being a Shaolin representatives or masters. This is the topic. The topic is not me. Please don't forget that. And the topic is not your hatred. Okay.